I go ahead and start and instruct you on what's going to be happening. This evening we have 4 individuals who have all shown a pretty decent effort and will be afforded the opportunity to speak to all of you on why they believe they should be the next administrator of discipline. I will be asking questions before they get the chance to speak to all of you. And I'd just like you all to go ahead and listen to their responses, and then you will also be afforded the opportunity to ask them any questions that you believe are relevant to the conversation. So at this time, I'm going ahead and call my
Ooh, this sounds kinky.
Sergeant Enforcer.
Oh, I knew it. First victim, here we go.
All right, sir. So, as you know, the community's morale levels have been extremely low and rather frightening to some. With that being said, how would you go about changing?
I would go about changing it by trying to boost morale, getting more people involved. I had made a statement earlier that if I were to become the admin of discipline, I'd like to make a panel similar to a jury where when, there comes a case of severe rule breaking or thinking about a ban, things like that we get community members involved in a panel where they can listen to all the evidence and be involved in that process of deciding whether this person should, get a punishment or a warning or, what it is. I'd work with the administrator of daily activities to try to plan things outside of the, out of role plays. I know a lot of us are interested in doing jobs and things like that to get money, but we also do it for fun, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So I just really try to get morale and kind of get people together outside of role plays where we can just have fun and not be stressed out or, not struggle with just having to focus on staying in character. We can just be ourselves.
All right, is that all, sir?
For that question, yes, sir.
All righty. So I'll do a little bit of explaining here. What will happen is I will ask a question and then I'll pick an administrator applicant to ask the question to, and then I'll pass it to all 4 of you, and then to the community's questions. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Jarhead on that same question.
All right, what I do to boost morale, I've been getting people together, trying to get people together, just having fun jobs, just trying to relax, blow some steam off. I know a lot of you members are upset with the discipline team or don't really get what the discipline team does. So if I get the admin, or if I don't, I'm still part of the discipline team. I'm going to try and get a meeting with all the team set up that you all can come in and talk to us, ask any questions. If you don't know what a rule means, you can ask us. We'll explain it to our best of our abilities. And even if it doesn't happen, come to me. I'll still get down on your level and talk to you about all the rules, whatever you want to talk about. I want to be back to what it was when I joined. And that was unity where there was no really stress, nothing. We were having fun. And that's what I'm going to aim to do, either if I get the administrator position, if not.
All right, is that all, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Lacking.
All right, go ahead. So this is what I would do to boost morale. I do agree with the other individuals, but I feel like I'm gonna take my own route on this. although, if I was to be picked as an administrator of discipline, it's not always about disciplining and handing out disciplinary actions. At times, you also have to and assist the community. So a way that I would boost morale would have to be by assisting the admin of daily activities to create new events, to get the minds off of what just happened. New people, because new people bring in new ideas. And on top of that, just have everyone, give everyone time to think about what happened, and just let them pick on their view of it and move on with it. Not really gonna, go too much with it, but, just as long as everyone would have a positive mindset, willing to move on from it, because it's not something that easy move on from, then that's what I would do. That's it.
All right, and finally, Dame Destiny.
As administrator of discipline, I would start with removing the bad weeds before they make everyone else have a worse time in the community. Since with there could be one bad person that just ruins it all for everyone. The earlier we can get to them, the better. As well as I would probably end up stealing some of the others' ideas just because they are very good, especially jarheads. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a reason why you should choose me in particular. Yes.
All right, is that all?
Stupid mic won't work. Yeah, that's basically, I think you heard everything.
Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and open up the community's questions or concerns on this matter, boosting morale. Feel free to ask whomever you want to ask a question. I do ask before you ask questions, you go ahead and post in the community meeting channel just to keep order so not everyone's talking at once, and I'll call on you through those means. Five Delta 22, you're up.
Alrighty. Sergeant, let me think of this. Why would being a admin of discipline affect the community? How would that work? Why do you think you deserve it?
So as far as how it affects the community and why I think I deserve it, I think that as an admin of discipline, yes, you have to, show out discipline, but you also have to use discretion and understand where other people are coming from. I mean, you're still a member of this community. And to me, I think about how would I feel if I was in this person's shoes. Would I want somebody to come in, and even if there is clear-cut evidence of, yes, I broke a rule, but I want them to come in and be like, or, ban me over something that could have been resolved. Personally, I think that I have, as an admin of discipline, I would want to look at it from their point of view. How would I want to be treated? I've been in this crew a long time. I've seen a lot of different admins. I've seen a lot of different styles, some which I agree with, some which I don't. But for me, the reason I really want to become an admin of discipline is to make a difference and make people realize that, just because the discipline team is there to show out discipline, that's not all we're there to do. We're out there to make the community better and make sure that these policies in which we put in place to make role play proper are being followed. And, that unfortunately when people don't exactly follow those policies, there's actions for those. And, whether you're friends with somebody or, you've known somebody for a really long time, you can't let that get in your way of whether or not they get a punishment. Because for me, I've seen that happen, and I've seen friendships get torn apart because an admin doesn't do their job or does do their job. But for me, it really is going to depend on how. Did I just cut out?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, because my thing went unresponsive. So for me, I've seen people get out of things because of who they're friends with, and for me, that's not the way it should be. If you're friends with me, you're friends with me. That's fine. But if you mess up, you need to make sure that you own up to that. And just because you're friends with me doesn't mean you're going to get out of it. You're still going to get the same punishment as somebody who I'm not friends with. Or, if you're somebody that has beef with me, and I know that everybody in this community has beef with somebody, but if you're somebody that has beef with me, I'm not going to treat you any more differently than I would any other member. It's all about being treated equal. And that's why when I talked about the jury style panel, that would help to make sure that at the end of the day, we're not making decisions based off our own feelings. It's more of a system to say, hey, here's the evidence. How would you guys find? And then as admins and advisors of discipline, we go back and we'd say, okay, this is what they think on it. This is what we think on it, and come up with an appropriate punishment, or, maybe, they character killed without properly talking to somebody, rather than saying, oh, let's just ban this person, or, let's just suspend them for 6 role plays. We can mediate between them and the person who they character killed and come to a conclusion of, okay, you know what, we're going to, disregard this, and pretend like the character was never killed. You each apologize to each other. I don't want to sound cheesy here, but kind of like you kiss and make up, like be friends again, get along role play, and we move on from too much grudges being held against people when things happen. I think that sometimes people feel like admin just, the admin team in regards to discipline just rules with an iron fist, and that's not what it should be about. It should be about helping keep the community in order and making sure that people are doing the right thing all the time, and when they're not, they're being held accountable regardless of who they know.
Huh. And Lacking, why do you think you deserve this position, and what do you think it'll allow you to this community?
All right. So, first of all, why do I think I'm questioned? I believe I'm qualified for this position due to my comprehension skills, my professionalism, and on top of that, I've had experience as a former internal affairs. I've dealt with issues within and without of a community, and I'm more of the people who like to listen more than they talk, but at the same time, when the time is right, I have to make my word known. I've been doing this whole role play thing for 6 years and have been in administration for 3 years. And on top of that, I've gained a lot of experience within this community by itself. Skills that I have sort of obtained and reinforced is, my social skills, comprehension skills, and organization. You learn a little bit, and I guess, the saying is you learn something new every single day. And I guess I've done that from being a department head to, civilian to fire to a PD, and it's sort of for the point where I feel like I'm qualified due to that experience and also due to my prior experience, because I feel like you need to know the past to get to the future. And I would just like this position because it's been sort of a goal of mine, and I've gone for the advisor position before and I've gone denied. So this is sort of just another chance at it, I guess. Nah, that's it.
All right. Do we have any other questions on this topic? Okay, Sean, I see you typing. I'm going to give you 1 minute to type in the community meeting chat if you have any more questions. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put a link out in 1 second. It's a live poll for those of you who feel like voicing your opinion and staying anonymous. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. discipline is a position where discretion is used almost daily, and discretion is a key part of being the discipline administrator. What is your version of discretion? I'll start again with Sergeant Enforcer.
All right. My version of discretion is, some people seem to think the rules are black and white. Because everybody looks at it as, I'm holding a cupcake. It's a cupcake. Or, oh, he shot me, which means he shot me. But, at the same point in time, if somebody's in there and, they shot somebody because they were getting shot at by somebody else, they thought that was the person shooting, and they shoot them. If the person is standing on the roadside with a gun out, and all of a sudden shots are getting fired at you, and that's the only guy you see with a gun, I mean, it's pretty reasonable to assume he was probably the one that shot at you. But for me, discretion is something that needs to be used heavily, because you can have some times where people have misunderstandings, people misconstrue things for something they're not, things are misrepresented. I've had plenty of times where there's been disagreements between me and another member, and then we go and we talk it out, and it's like, oh well, actually, we both saw our different ways, but now we're on the same page. So discretion to me is using your better judgment to resolve a scenario. It's not about being heavy-handed and suspending people and banning people and kicking people out. It's about trying to make the community better as a whole and working with people rather than just, throwing the book at them, like I said before. It's more of taking your time to understand where they were coming from, from both sides of it, both the person complaining and the person being complained about, and coming to a conclusion. And that conclusion doesn't always have to mean they're being, suspended or banned or anything like that. It could just be, hey, here's the friendly warning. Let's talk it out. Let's come to a consensus and move on from it. That's it. Chidi, you there? Oh, fuck.
Go ahead and move on.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Lacking.
All right, so my definition of discretion, it goes both ways. It's not necessarily a set definition in a sense. I see it more of a abstract, complex definition that's sophisticated in its own way itself. Discretion can mean, one, being aware or caution of the situation, and two, discretion can also mean at the same time whether you decide what should be done in a particular situation. So in the sense, it has multiple definitions, and I guess my abstract way of seeing it is, what would be a reasonable thing to do here? Would you want to grab and make private information known, or would you like to keep it private? Or when it comes to role play scenarios, be cautious of where your surroundings and always be on high alert would also be a different definition. So I go both ways about it. I guess it's just my abstract way of seeing things, and that's it for me.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Jarhead.
All right. Here's what my version of discretion is. If you break a rule and it's one of those rules that's iffy, like it could go either way, and you don't know the exact meaning of that rule, I'm going to sit down and talk to you about it. And it's not really going to go on record if you break a rule within reason, not knowing exactly that you broke a rule. But there's times that if you break a rule and you can use your common sense not to know not to break that rule, even though you don't know that's a rule within the community. That's different. So, and if the person that we talked to about the rules or rule they broke don't really know, I'm gonna suggest they read the rules, and if they have a question, PM me, and I can help them understand the rule better.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to game destiny.
My version of discretion is if you broke a rule and you can look me in the eyes and tell me you honestly didn't realize you broke a rule, as long as it's within common sense, then we're fine. I educate you on the rule, make sure you understand it, then you're on your way. If you lie to me, or you know that you broke a rule and you did it on purpose, we're going to have problems. Whether how severe that would be, I don't know. But if, say, you break a rule and you know you did, but you try to slip past me, I'm going to see that, and I'm going to get pissed. So simple, be honest with me, and I help you out. That's all.
Alrighty. The next question has to do with band members. As many of us know, bands are permanent. However, recently the question has come under fire as to whether bands should be permanent or whether they should not be. So I'm going to ask Sergeant Enforcer once again first, should bands be permanent or should they not be?
So I'm going to be honest here. Everybody makes mistakes. You know, some people make more mistakes than others. And for me, we've all seen it. There's people that have been banned for things that are minor, that could have been fixed, but they had a bad attitude about it. For me, if somebody comes to us and says, hey, listen, you know, I left the crew, 8 months ago. I'm a different person now. This is what I want to change about myself. This is what I can do better. And they can explain to me what they can do better to make sure that they're following the community rules. I don't see a reason why we have to then limit the people from coming back. Now, if somebody's sitting in there and they're acting a fool and, they came into a game and they're shooting people because they're mad because, their best friend didn't get a position, that's different. To me, that's somebody who really needs to, stay out. But if it's somebody that can clearly prove to me that they are a changed person, I don't see why we should keep those people out if they're willing to change and, they're willing to make their behavior better to properly roleplay. I don't see why we should have to keep those people out if they're willing to change.
All right, is that all, sir?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Jarhead, you're up.
I believe in second chances. But before I would even think about giving someone a second chance, I would look at their discipline history, see what rules they broke, and see how severe the rules were. Then I would assemble every admin and advisor in the community, and we would all talk about it, trying to get a fair opinion on if the banned person should be allowed back in or not. Because there's been some people, they got banned. They learned their lesson. And if they've learned their lesson and they can show they've changed, by all means, come back. But if they can't show they have not changed, it's one of those things that I don't want to unban someone when they show they haven't changed. That's all.
Alrighty.
Hi, very much.
Blacking.
All right. So my views on the whole band, and whether it should be permanent or temporary, it really doesn't come down to a discipline choice in the sense that it's not just an admin's choice, whether or not they should. I feel like a lot of things would come into play in the sense. What happens very often is people break a rule. They either lie about it or they just don't, they're not responsible about their actions and they don't own up to it and end up getting banned. What I feel that would happen was, if they say that they're changed, that they want a second chance, I'm all for it. The only thing I would like to see is, one, I would like to see the rules that they broke, check their history, check whether or not they should even be qualified for an unban. And on top of that, I would also review what it says on, the rules. I would see if you broke this rule, what would the punishment be, and see if it was an over excessive rule, if it was a fair ban, if it was a ban that should have been a suspension, or if they just deserve a second chance by, their good behavior, by how their attitude is. They're more positive, they're more friendly. They admit that they're wrong, if that is the case at all, and so on and so forth. That's it for me.
Alright, Game Destiny.
Personally, I've had experience with giving certain people second chances. I would probably do something similar to how Jared said it. Review what they did, then talk it over with some of the other admins and anyone from when they were banned, if there is anyone still around. And then I would give them a week to prove that they still deserve to be in the community. If they deserve to be, they deserve to be added back into the community. If they're clearly the same as they were, and it was just an act to try to get back in, then they will be straight back out the door before they can cause any real harm. Just to keep it brief, that was all.
Alright, this time I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions. I understand the Mayor Knight of Los Santos has a question. I'm losing Nave. I believe that's you.
Yes, I do have a question. First and foremost, I want to congratulate you for being the last and final four to be selected to this great position. So basically, my question is, when I was on the campaign trail, I was messaging a lot of people and seeing what I could do better. And a lot of people actually messaged me back saying the administrators sometimes abuse their power. Can you promise to everybody in this meeting right now that you won't abuse your power? And if so, if somebody says, yes, you are abusing power, how would you fix that? How would you go about talking to that person and say, hey, I'm just doing the right thing. I'm not abusing my power at all.
I guess I'll go first on this topic.
Yep.
So for me, my plan is if I become the the administrator of discipline. I was looking at the word advisor, my apologies. If I were to become the admin of discipline, I would actually keep case files. When I was an administrator in another community, I'd literally type up every time I dealt with somebody, why I dealt with that person, what the infraction was, what evidence was presented. And, if there was ever somebody that came to us and said, "Oh, you're abusing your power," I'd then sit there and I'd get the other admins involved, and I'd say, this is the claim that's being brought about, that whoever's, I'm abusing my power, or, whoever's abusing their power. This is the evidence that we have that's, shows that we did our due diligence and we did what we needed to do in regards to policy and procedure. So then that way people there would be no reason for them to say that we were abusing our power, because we were doing our due diligence. We were keeping proper paperwork and making sure that we were doing the right thing, and making sure that we weren't, kind of going off on our own tangent, so to speak. Which I know that there's been problems in the past with people claiming that, people abuse this or people abuse that. And, some of it was substantiated and some of it wasn't. And, people need to realize that at the end of the day, everybody makes mistakes. And, we got to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And we can't be, using our position to try and sway things one way or the other. So I personally wouldn't, abuse my power. I can't speak for everybody here. I'd like to think that everybody here wouldn't abuse their power, but I really can't speak for other people. But I know I personally wouldn't abuse my power or use any of my prior engagements with people in this community to do any harm.
I guess I'll go next. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the kind message about us four finalists achieving where we're at. I would just like to say personally, I'm very blessed. So anyways, continuing on to your question, or your concern, should I say. I don't think it would ever go to the point where an admin would be abusing the power. And I feel that if an admin was abusing power, in this case, if I was put in that position, I would personally have a talk with that person, that individual. I would rather, have people who are honest confront me about it, tell me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what they feel is right and what they feel is wrong. And from there, I would grab that information and I would present it in front of other administrators or Cheetah or, staff, or even people who, have nothing to do with the community, if that's the case, if we're really going to be unbiased about the situation. But truly, it's best if you get an outside look, if you get someone from the outside to look on the case and make their judgment, rather than, someone who has known you. But regardless, at the end of the day, I guess it would be more or less a checks and balances sort of issue. And if I was to, abuse a power, which, like I've said, like I just stated, hopefully, and I can promise you right now that I would never do anything to jeopardize my position or jeopardize the community itself as a whole. But if it ever got to that point, I would take whatever consequence I would get. And I would own up to it. I mean, if you're giving me a claim and that claim does check out, then I have to, it's sort of a wake up call. But hopefully, I can guarantee you that I will do nothing on purpose, and I will make sure to do my best to maintain my order and maintain proper standing. That's it for me.
I'll go real quick. I will not abuse my power, and I have not abused my power. I don't see the point in abusing power. If they broke a rule and it's severe enough rule break to mute, suspend, or let's just say a written warning or a chat warning, then it gets dealt with accordingly. And it's usually not just my sole decision on what we do, because I don't want to look like I'm abusing my powers, because I don't. So I have.
Game Destiny, you're the last one.
I wouldn't you abuse my powers, at least not intentionally. If I were, all I ask is that you at least let me know. I'll back off. I don't want to ruin anybody's roleplay experience. I just want to make everything as good as I can for everyone. I personally don't like to abuse power. I just don't even use it. I'd like you to see me as just another member when you walk across me in roleplay. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to thank you guys, thank you gentlemen for the phenomenal answers you guys gave us. I can only imagine whichever one wins will do a phenomenal job at it. And thank you for taking my answer. God bless.
Alrighty. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and allow anyone in this channel to just go ahead and shoot out questions as they please. So it's an open floor at this point.
Cheater, am I able to ask a question of them? As strange as that sounds? So,
Sure.
my question to you guys, and anybody can answer this. What, we've told you guys what we want to change as far as becoming administrators of discipline and what we want to do differently. What would you guys like to see done differently so whoever does get it can make sure that you guys get the most fair and appropriate person for the job to make sure that you feel comfortable with who you're choosing?
Whoever would like to answer, go ahead.
Well, let's hear from you, Cheetah. I'm interested to know your thought on this question.
I'm actually going to have one of them answer, and then I'll tune in at the end. Jarhead, why don't you give us your answer?
So what? And if people see the admin of discipline or what have you come into their party, start hanging out with them, just being chill, laughing, carrying on, maybe they'll see that we're not as bad as they think we are.
I'll also answer your question, Sergeant Enforcer, or brought up. I feel that many people would like to. I think one of the problems that sort of occurred in the past is people felt like their word wasn't heard, and so something that I personally would like to see, whether it's in myself or it's in one of you guys, is I would like to have the administrator of discipline, whether or not there is physical evidence or not, to at least hear out the person and hear what they have to say. At the end of the day, if there is not enough physical evidence, witnesses, whatever the case is, and actions are to not be taken, at least the person knows that they were heard fairly. At least they know that it was discussed, and at least they know that it's now into the eyes of the admins and that they are aware of what's going on. And if it ever, something else ever comes up, and they're able to match two and two together, then they are to basically treat it as fair and as as honest, and treat it the way it should be treated instead of just ignoring it and putting it aside. Because I feel like many people, with the other administration team that we used to have, did go up and did make announcements, but immediately were rejected due to the fact that they did not have enough physical evidence. So at the end of the day, it's more or less of a let our voices be heard type deal. And hopefully that way everyone gets a chance to express their thoughts and opinions on certain scenarios, and basically provide the administration that extra knowledge, whether it is true or false. If it is false, obviously, it's not going to be taken into consideration because it is a false accusation. But at least it is brought up to the admin's eyes and they are aware of it. That's it for me.
I'm not sure whose server muted me, but oh, you did? Okay, I was like, huh? If I could just say something real quick, Cheetah.
Go ahead.
So, obviously, today is a day that we all need to kind of realize that in the past, I think we've had some issues with people being chosen for positions because they were friends with somebody or, whatever the case may be. I think today's really a day where we need to kind of look at what can we change from the past to make the future better. And everybody in this community has had issues with somebody. I mean, at the end of the day, the four of us that are going for this, me, Game Destiny, Jar, and Lacking, as much as we're rooting for ourselves, we're rooting for each other. Because we want somebody in there who's going to get the job done and who's not going to sit there and favor their friends over anybody else. And I think it was Jarhead that said it best. We're no better than regular members. And for me, if I don't get this position, like, I'm still going to keep doing what I do. I'm still going to help people when they need it. But when you guys are voting for this, I want you all to think about who are you really voting for and why? Are you voting for somebody just because they're your friend and because you know them? Or are you voting for them based on their answers here tonight? And I really hope it's the second one. I know that all four of us have had our own issues with other people. We've all kind of had issues with each other at one point or another where we didn't get along, but we've all come through it. And I just hope that everybody, when they're voting tonight, and whoever wins, whether it be me or any of the other three candidates, Lacking or Jarhead or Game Destiny, that people are truly voting for who they want to make a difference, not who they think they're going to be able to sneak stuff by. Because after what we dealt with last, in the past, as a community over the past 3 years, I think it's time that we need someone who's going to use that discretion, but also be fair about it, rather than just having somebody who goes ahead and has, their friends favored over everybody else.
If I may make a statement.
Go for it.
So, when you choose a candidate out of the four of us, choose out of who sounds like they're telling you the truth, not just trying to get in there to feel powerful. For example, Jarhead, he's a very good guy. I know he's telling the truth. He's the safe option. He has discipline experience. The only reason I would recommend you choose me is I'm new to this. I have ideas, as some of the people in the criminal department may know. For example, I have some of the more unique call ideas. The ones that are like, what were you thinking, that turn into, how did that work, but it works great. For example, the recent call I did, which was robbing the Union Depository. That shouldn't have worked, but it did, and it worked well. So just remember who you're choosing and why. That's all.
I would like to quickly make a statement, sort of say, like the candidates have said, at this point, it's time for the community to be heard and to let you guys choose who you want as a admin of discipline. At this point, it's no longer just, command staff or admins choosing. It's the whole community, because the whole community needs to know what's going on behind closed doors. And it's time that we all start working and putting ourselves together to create this beautiful community that we are in. The only reason that I would like for you guys to consider me as an option, whether I get chosen or not, would be because of the fact that, well, first of all, I do have prior experience with this. It's something that I've done for a long time. And on top of that, it's something new that this community hasn't seen me do. On top of that, it's also been something that I've been chasing for a while now. So it would sort of knock all those goals and basically get me where I would, feel like I accomplished a goal. And from there, you'd see a different side of me. Not in a bad way, and definitely not in a medium way. It would definitely be something that would impact the community in a positive way, because I would do anything in my power to make sure everyone is fairly treated. All the decisions are unbiased, no grudges are held. And as many of you guys have seen, I usually don't hold grudges within the community. I normally just let them go, because you can't mix, personal life with role play in a different community. It just doesn't work, because then too many feelings get involved. And so whether I get chosen or not, I wish everyone here, the candidates, the best. I really do. And I hope to see, I hope to see what the future has for us and brings for us. That's it for me.
Alrighty, folks. At this time, I believe Punchy has a question for all of the candidates. So I'm going to go ahead and let him ask you that.
Okay, so this next portion of this little town hall type thing is we're going to give them a real incident that the discipline team had to discipline someone. There's actually two people involved. So we're going to go and let each candidate voice their opinion of the situation and what they would do. So I'm going to give you guys a brief background. Sorry for my English. It was in Sandy Shores. The incident occurred on this large rock, kind of in between the little triangle over by Yellow Jack, if you guys know what I'm talking about, on Route 68 and Panorama Drive, kind of over by Clack Claw. Two people, person A and person B, jumped on dirt bike looking bikes about 40 plus feet in the air and landed in that little tower substation with that little electric plant, if you guys know where that is. They both stuck the landing, which was pretty impressive. Person B and person A were both still driving around. So they landed a 40 plus feet jump on cement. Okay. Person B ran into a telephone pole, those big wooden poles, got back on the dirt bike. Then a couple minutes later, one of person B threw a grenade and person A shot an RPG at a fence, claiming they were trying to get out when minutes before they both were successfully out of the area. So we're going to start off with Game Destiny because he's been going last. If you need me to clarify the situation again, I will. But Game Destiny, how would you approach disciplining the two?
Okay. Well, while it's not impossible, theoretically, to land that 40,000 feet drop, to keep going and run into that telephone pole, that's a no. And if there's proof that they blew everything up afterwards, the grenade and the rocket launcher, and they still claim, even while I'm talking to them, that they did it to get out, I think they're just lying to me. I'd go back into previous discipline records, see similar situations potentially, and then based on that, choose an answer. Well, I don't think it's that serious, and I could tell them not to do it again. Verbal or written warning, I suppose. I don't have much context on the situation like this, so I don't really know how to answer exactly, but that's just what I would do to start.
Also,
That's all.
clips were provided. Person A did have a previous 2-day suspension, and person B did not have any previous. So we'll move on to, I believe, Jarhead was third during that whole thing. So Jarhead, I know that you were part of the discipline team while this incident occurred, but if you were the sole person disciplining this incident, how would you go about it?
Since with all facts given, clips given, since person A did have a prior 2-day and they broke several rules, I would have gave them a 2-day suspension, 3 at the max. Depends on how they interact with us within the discipline party. If they were yelling and screaming and all that, 3. But if they were cool, calm, collected, said, okay, I broke a rule, then 2. Then the person B said no prior history in discipline. What I do is verbal warning. Hey, don't do it again. And then if they do it again, I mean, gonna have to punish them, which is written warning. Or if they didn't, well, that's all I have.
Is that all, Jar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lacking, you're up. How would you go about this situation?
All right. Real quick, since I heard those two other candidates speak, and I did not really get to hear one part, or at least remember that one part. You said that it was a RPG and a grenade, correct?
Person B did throw a grenade that was out of the clip, but the grenade was still heard. Person A pulled an RPG and shot it at a fence from about 10 feet away.
Okay, so right off the bat, we're experiencing some lacking of common sense. Clearly, they do not know how to role play, and it's also considered fail RP. On top of that, this is not something that you would do in real life. You would not jump 40 feet in the air, land, and then all of a sudden pull an RPG out of the back of your little dirt bike and shoot it at a fence to get over a fence. It's not realistic at all. So the person, which I believe is person A, who has the priors, correct?
Yep.
Will receive a following suspension due to the fact that when it comes to policy procedures, it goes verbal warning, written warning, suspension, and once he got one suspension, I believe it's a second suspension before a ban or a harsher punishment. So with that case being that, I would have to give person a 3-day suspension since last time they got a 2-day suspension. And when it comes to person B, who in this case would be the rookie, I would go with a verbal warning due to the fact that they were part of it and they were involved, but at the same time, with such a clean record, I can't really hold it against them. I would probably grab and send them. This is not even just, a written warning or whatever the case would be. This is just me out of my way giving them, the list of rules for them to recheck and then confirm with me that they have rechecked it, just to make sure that this hopefully doesn't happen so he doesn't get something else on his record. That's it for me.
And finally, enforcer.
Yes. All right. So, for me, obviously, there's a lot that went wrong in this scenario. Now, my question is, was this incident when it all went down? Were they inside the fence when this RPG got pulled out? I know it's Phil RP. I'm just curious if they were inside the fence
They were inside the gated power play area, yes.
with no way to get out besides to jump the fence. Obviously, I mean, you could have done
They
that too.
both did get out. They both did get out at one point and then went back in.
Okay, so I'm just curious about that. But for me, person A would definitely be looking at a suspension based on their response. If they come in and they go, yeah, man, I screwed up. I broke like 4 rules. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. And they own up to it. I'd probably just give them another 2-day. If they come in screaming and yelling and cussing at me, telling me I'm an asshole and everything else, they'd probably get a week for me, just because, respect is a big thing. If you're going to show me respect and work with me, I'm going to work with you. And person B, obviously, you could assume a lot of things in this case. They could be new. They could just be lucky. They could do this a lot and never get reported. I mean, we've had people that's happened to. So for me, depending on how person B reacts, if they come in and they start, being a jerk and, swearing at us and telling us, you're lying, even though we clearly have the video, they'd probably get a written from me for that. But if they come in and own up to it, they'd get a verbal and told, you can't be doing that. But really, attitude is everything. I mean, if you're going to come in and be a jerk, even though we're telling you we have clear-cut evidence you did something, it's kind of hard to work with someone who doesn't want to work with you. So, I mean, person B would, depending on their attitude, either get a written or a verbal, and person A would either get a 2-day suspension if they were cooperative, or if they weren't, then they'd get a week from me.
All right. So I am going to allow one short question from Unloosing Nate, and then we're just going to go to. I'm going to ask that every response is limited to 30 seconds for this, just due to time. And then we will break just to quick responses. Nate, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm back again. I'll keep the question very short, answer very short. So my question is basically, what do you see the administrative discipline at in about a month from now or 2 months from now? Do you see it prospering? I'd like to go start with enforcement with this one.
For me, I hope to see it grow. I hope to change people's perception on discipline and, try to get people more involved. I know we tried some sit-ins last time, but I think really kind of, giving people the option when they're facing suspension or discipline, giving them an appeal process and things like that. But I hope to see, discipline go up more than I do to see it go down. So there's a better perception from the community on what discipline's about.
All right. Thank you. Lacking, you're up.
All right. So to answer your question, I guess from 1 or 2 months from now, clearly, if all goes well, we will be blooming. Everything will be good. We should be successful because success is a process. And with administration going up, I guess it's safe to say that the community would also be doing good. So in that case scenario, yes, I do see us. If any of us get, whoever gets chosen, I do see that administration going up, and yeah, that's it for me.
Jarhead.
I see the admins of discipline working well together and also trying to bring back in the sit-ins then trying to get a better relationship with the community. It's gonna be up from here.
Game Destiny?
Personally, in 1 to 2 months, think either it's going to be, hopefully we've all forgotten the events that happened recently with the whiskey and wine situation. And hopefully I'll have plucked out the bad roots that are in the community and just hopefully overall be a better place.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor to comments. Really anything for these four gentlemen.
I got one.
Go ahead.
All right. This is. I'm not gonna say that any one is better than the other. I'm not. But there was an incident. Actually, I think you might remember this, Jarhead. A while back, you actually sent me a clip. I was on a motorcycle on the highway, and I ended up doing a U-turn, and I went over a hill. Jarhead, do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Anyway, when he spoke to me, he didn't like down me. He didn't disrespect me. He specifically just told me what the rules were, and he was fair about it. He wasn't a dick. And usually whenever I'm a douchebag. I'll be honest. So I mean, when it comes to discipline, I mean, it depends on how you come across me. And Jarhead did a great job with coming across the way he did with me, because normally I do get disrespectful, and because that's just my defense mechanism. I don't know why, it just is. And I apologize to whoever, and you know who you are, that I've disrespected. But yeah, Jarhead, I like Jarhead as a disciplined person. Not that I don't like Lacken, not that I don't like the other people. I'm just saying, with his experience and with what I've experienced from him, he's a good pick.
Alrighty, does anyone else have anything else before we go ahead and close it?
I have one quick thing.
Go ahead.
Now, Jarhead, this is for you. For you being advisor of discipline, how well do you think you would have your rank? Like, what would you do as a admin of discipline? Like, say if there's a major priority that wasn't approved, how would you deal with that? And there are no clips that were provided to you. How would you deal with that?
Well, I would I would get the story from all sides, whoever was involved with it. Then, if they do own up to it, then we'll go from there. But if they don't own up to it, there's not enough evidence pointing to they done a priority, and they're not allowed to, then you can't really punish someone for not having enough evidence. And also, I've noticed a few law enforcement officers in the community jump the gun on calling a priority. It might have been something like that. So all in all, just supportive evidence, then go from there.
All right, is that all, sir? All right, I'm assuming that's a yes. Does anyone else have anything?
I would like to say good luck, gentlemen.
You as well, sir.
All right, this time I thank you for attending. At this time, we're done, and you may exit this channel. Thank you for attending.
Damn it, Mr. Tweeters.